Stan. Are you ready?
Do you like having me here? Or it's too close? Huh?
No, I'm okay. You're too close. No, that's fine. By the way, Stan, some of these grapes in here are looking aged.
And they smell, by the way.
No, they don't.
They
I don't
do.
smell.
I can tell that there is a smell here.
They're,
Not really?
they're going to be refreshed next week after Thanksgiving.
Smelling, I don't, but they look like they've had better days.
While you're sitting here, you can take notes and afterwards tell them what you
Hey,
did.
Jordan.
Exactly. That's
How's my
important.
man? I had such a weird dream. Wait,
No,
did
no,
you
no,
do
no.
that?
That's Joe. That's not this part.
Yeah, well, it sort of is. No, I was doing wrestling. Oh, you had a wrestling. See that? Maybe that's why my knee is acts up on me today.
Yankov was the founder of the World Wrestling Entertainment franchise.
Yeah, I know. You know, my grandfather used to love watching the wrestling matches. They loved wrestling. They loved my dear grandfather. He loved the wrestling matches.
My grandmother too.
It's the weirdest
My
thing.
Gruber, my Gruber.
Yeah. Wait. What? No, you're fine. You're fine. You can sit anywhere you want. You're fine. Absolutely fine. Shabbat shalom. What?
So I don't feel like I'm almost by myself.
I have a new mask.
You lost.
No. Silver. Okay. Let me get ready here. I know. Just keep smiling. Let's see. Here it is. Hello. Oh, it's working. Good. These wires are always, I always have to be careful I don't trip. My hair is getting so long. Hi, Neil. Shabbat Shalom. The Newmans are leaving for us for 5 weeks, deserting us. Nasiya Tova. Wait, to do what? So? Good. You mean the Mishabera before the Cholim? Yeah. I don't know which one. Huh? After all the Aliyot, so after Shvi. Yeah. Fine, go ahead. Yeah, before Kaddish. Mishabera. Oh, you want to do it before I do the Mishabera? I gotcha. After Shvi, I'll wait for you. Oh, I have a double note here now, Jordan. Where's Serenade? Okay. So we have all of Esav's family to read about today. I know you're really into that. It's a hard introduction. Okay. That I can share with Stan. Okay. How are we doing? Okay, I think we should begin. Shabbat Shalom, Boker Tov, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are going to begin our Shacharit, our morning service, led by Stan Mitchell, our Shliat Tzibur. Page 147, Shochenad.
Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo.
Shochenad marom
B'chaktuv
v'kadosh
rananu
shemo.
tzadikim baronai le'yasharim navat tehila. B'fi yasharim tidalal u'v'divrei tzadikim titbarach u'v'ilshon chasidim titromam u'v'kerev kadoshim titkadash u'v'makalot ribavot amcha beit Yisrael b'rinayat parshim chamalkenu v'chol dor v'ador sheken chovat kol yitzurim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu lahodot lahalel l'shabeach l'faer l'romim lahadir l'varech l'aleil kales al kol divrei shirot v'tishbachot David ben Yishai avdecha Mashichecha Yishtabach Shimcha Lad Malkeinu Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol VaKadosh B'Shamayim u'Ba'aretz Ki L'chana Adonai Eloheinu V'Eloi Avotenu V'Imotenu Shir Shvacha Lel V'Zimra Ozu Memshala Netzach Gedula Ugavura Tehila V'Tiferet Kedusha U'Malchut Brachot V'Hodot Me'ata V'Ad Olam Baruch Atah Adonai El Melech Gadol Batishbachot El Hodot Adon HaNiflaot Abocher B'Shirei Simra Melech Elchei Olamim.
Please rise. Hatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
B'yom Dirakir Te v'yamlich Malchutei v'chayechon u'vyom echon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman kariv yimru Amen.
Amen. Yehi
Shmei Rabbah Mavarach Le'olam Lomei Olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal Shmei Dekudesha Brichu Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata Teshuvata v'nechamata Damiran b'yoma v'yimaru Amen.
Page 149.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Elam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Yotzer Or Uvorech Hoshech Oseh Shalom Uvorech Et HaKol
Page 150.
HaKol Yeducha HaKol Yishapchucha
Yishapchucha.
Yotzer HaPoteh Meir Le'olam Shvei Baruch Meir La'aretz L'Adar V'Adav Racham Melech Hamar HaMeshavach M'Foram N'aseh Mot Olam Elohelam Rachamach Rabbeim Adonai Zenu Megam Shem Ein kerkecha v'ein tzulatecha efes biltecha u'mido melach Ein kerkecha Adonai Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh v'ein tzulatcha malkeinu l'chayei ha'olam haba Efes biltecha go aleinu limot HaMashiach v'ein dome lecha Moshienu l'tchiyat hametim
El Adon, page 151.
El Adon al kol hamasim Baruch u'mvorach befi kol neshama Godlo v'tuvo malei olam Da'at u'tavuna solavim oto Hamit ga'er al chayot ha'kodesh V'nedar b'chavod al ha'merkava Zechut u'mishor lifnei chiso Chesed v'rachamim lifnei chavodo Tovim me'orot shebara Eloheinu Yitzaram b'dat b'vina u'b'haskel Koach u'gevura נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נאה זיוום בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם וששים בבם, עושים בהם הרצון קונם, פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, צהלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו, קרא לשמש ויזרח אור, רביד כנצורת הבנה, שבח נותנים לו, כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ויופנים וחיות הקודש. ליל אשר שבת מכל המעשים ביום השביעי. זה שבח.
Page 152. שיר ליום השבת.
תתברך משינו על שבח מעשה ידיך, ויום אורי אור שעשית יפרוך הסלע.
153.
תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו, בורא קדושים משתבח שלך מענו.
השם ישתף עולמות
דברי עולמכם ומלך עולם. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים בהמה ויראה רצון קונם. וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה וטהרה ושירה וזמרה, מברכים ומשבחים ומפארים ומעריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא קדוש הוא. וכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח, בשפה וברורה ונימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך על הארץ כבודו. באופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מתנסים למצרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ליל ברוך נעמד ליתנו למלך החיים וזמרות ימינו. בעל מלחמה זורק שלום ישועה בנו אדם. חדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד מעשה ראשית כאמור. לעושרים גדולים כי לעולם חסדו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה ליאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
Amen. Page 154. אהבה רבה.
חמלה גדולה
אלוהינו.
ותמלנו שבח לבנו.
כן תכוננו צלם.
אבינו ורחמנו רחם.
לשמוע, ללמוד, לשמור ולעשות.
והיה עינינו בתורתך דבנו יחל רבנו לנו.
כי בשם קודשך
נקי לנו שמחה בישועתך.
נגיד בשבתך. אבינו לשלום.
אבינו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועת אתה, ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון, וקרבתנו לשמך גדול, סלע סלע באמת, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
ברוך שם
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשופך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Vayam Shema
156, the rest of the Shema. ונתתי מצרתכם ביטול, עשיתם ואתם אלוהים אחרים שתקביתם להם, לא תתניבו לבנים, לימדתם אותם את בניהם לדבר בם, בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך, ובשופך ובקומך כתבתם וזך נפשך, למען ימי מכם ושמותיכם, להדליק להם את שמיים על הארץ. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, יעשו להם ציצית על כנפי ידיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף בתלתחת, והיה לכם לציצית. וראיתם אותו, זכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם. לא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. יציב לכם כמה שנים.
נאמן ואהוב וחביב נחמד.
אמת אלוהים
אמת.
ודור ודור קיים ושמר קיים. ניסן נכון ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיימת.
ולבריו
חיים קיימים נאמנים נחמדים אבותינו
זר
ואלוהים.
יסר לבדיך.
אמת שאתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו ואמותינו, גואלנו גואל אבותינו ואמותינו, יוצרנו צור ישועתנו, פודנו מצילנו מעולם שמך, אין אלוהים זולתך. עזרת אבותינו ואמותינו אתה ומעולם, מגן משה לבני מבור עולם משפטה אשרי שמנו. אמת אתה ראשון אתה מגן השם ממצרים גלתנו.
אמת. תורי שבתו אחרון.
ויחס ירחמו אלס השם.
Page 158.
ברם וניסה גדול משפיע ומציא סבינו.
בדיתנו, וידידים הברת ובשמיים צריכם, ונתנו ידים זירו שירו ותשפחות, רב וניסה גדול.
תהילות ליל עליון ברוך ומבורך, משה מרים ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקדש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. שירה חדשה שבחו גאולים לשמך, על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Please rise.
צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדחנו ממך יהודה וישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Together we begin the Shacharit Amidah for Shabbat on page 159 and through the Kedusha together and that will be followed by our silent remainder of the Amidah through page 166.
Ya la 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 Adonai. Ya la 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 Svatai Tiftach. Ya la 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 Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Ya la 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 Adonai. Ya la 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 Svatai Tiftach. Ya la 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 Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei HaKol V'zocher chastei avot v'imahot U'movii goel evnei bneihem L'man shemo b'yahava Melech ozer ufoked u'moshia u'magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ufoked Sarah Atah gibor le'olam Adonai Mechayem eitim atah loshia Mashiv Ruach Morid Agashem Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechayim Eitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayim Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha bal gevurot Umido melach Melech mimit umachayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua B'nei amanata l'chayot meitim Baruch atah Adonai Machayeh hameitim.
Kedusha, page 161. Nikadesh. Eshimcha b'lam kshem shemakti shemot b'shmei marom. Kakatu v'yadeviyach v'razeh el zev yamor.
Nekadesh et shemcha ba'olam Keshem shemakti shemoto b'shmei marom Kakatuv al yad neviyecha V'kara zeh el zev yamar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai tzvaot Melech ha'aretz kevodo.
אז בכל רעש גדול, מנסים למצורפים, לעומתם ברוך יומם.
אז בכל רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים למצורפים, לעומתם ברוך יומרו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
במקומך מלכנו תופיע. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו לעולם ותשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בדוף ירושלים עירך. טוב אדון לנצח נצח.
ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו לעולם ותשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור לנצח נצחים. ויהננו תירנה, תירנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. ויהננו תירנה, תירנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. על ידי דוד, על ידי דוד, Al Yedei
Al Yedei
David
David
Mashiach Tzidkecha Al Yedei
Al Yedei
David
David
Al Yedei
Al Yedei
David
David
Al Yedei
Al Yedei
David Mashiach Tzidkecha Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohayich Tzion L'dor v'ador Hallelujah L'dor v'ador Nagid Gadlecha U'lanetzach Nesachim Kedushatcha Nakdish V'shivchacha Eloheinu Mipinu Layamush Le'olam Va'ed Ki Yeh Melech Gadol V'kadosh Ata Baruch Ata Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
Amen. Yismach Moshe b'matnat chelko. Shnei l'chalei b'yado. Asot et Shabbat Amikat Yishei Shvi'i Sabeinu b'tevech מחזיר שכינתו לציון ודים הלכת בו ואל ניצח השם הטוב גמולך ורחמך
Yiyu leratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi lefanecha. Yiyu leratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri v'goali, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri v'goali.
Kaddish Shalem, page 167.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad yerech yirteh v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael. V'agalo v'zman kariv v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach. L'olam lo me'omaya.
Yitbarach.
Barak v'yishtavach v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shmei dekudesha.
Barichu.
Leila min kavir chata v'shirata. Tishbrata v'nechemata damiran ba'oma v'yimarun.
Amen.
Titkabal tzloton avuton d'chol Yisrael kadam avon divishmaya v'yimarun.
Amen.
Yehi shlom arama min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimarun. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimarun.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom and Boker Tov, everyone. It's a pleasure to again be together on this Shabbat. We have a very full agenda this morning. Our Torah reading, we're going to be welcoming our new members, our many new members into our congregation, and hopefully we'll have some words of uplift for this portion of Vayishlach. A very big change that takes place in Jacob's understanding. We're going to try this today of himself. And we're also going to share some remarks about very few, about the landmark Rittenhouse issue. A lot of people have come up to me. I'll share some thoughts about that. And related to Jewish law, which I hope will be of some help to this very divided society of ours. Let's continue now with the Torah service on page 168.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai v'ein kamasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam v'ed Adonai oz le'amo yitain Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom avarachamim eitiv avirtzoncha et Zion tibnei chamot Yerushalayim tibnei chamot Yerushalayim ki v'cha levad batachnu melech Adon olamim. Vayehi ben Aharon vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai veyafutzu oivecha veyanusu misanecha mipanecha Ki mitzion teitzei Torah Ki mitzion teitzei Torah Udavar Adonai Mirushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratcha b'finu u'v'fi amcha beit Yisrael v'niyeh nachnu v'tzetzaenu v'tzetzaei amcha beit Yisrael kulanu Yodei Shemecha v'lodei Toratecha lishma. Baruch atah Adonai hamilamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. May the words of your Torah, it's from the Talmud. Lord our God, be pleasant to us and to your people, the house of Israel. May we, our children, and all future generations of the house of Israel know you and study your Torah with devotion. Praised are you, O Lord, who teaches Torah to his people, Israel.
Be'ana rachetz v'lishmei kadisha kadisha yakira ana emar tushbechan be'ana rachetz v'lishmei kadisha Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan Yeherava Kadamach Detiftach Libi Bioraita V'tashlim Ishalin Delibi V'liba Dechalama Yisrael letav v'lachayin v'lishlam. Amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai iti, uneromim Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai Hagadula V'Hagavura V'Tiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Ki Chol B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Ki Chol B'Shamayim.
With you, Shabbat Shalom. Hi, Julie, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm fine.
Pamit Naaseh Lechol Erosh Romamu, Romamu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Lahadom Raglav Kadoshu, Romamu, Romamu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Lahar Kodsho, Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Torah, 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 Tziva Lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva Lanu Moshe.
Shalom.
Morasha Kehilat Yaakov, Morasha Kehilat Yaakov, Morasha Kehilat Yaakov, Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. See, I can't see anybody smiling. It's a very big. I can't see you smiling. Are you smiling? Good. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. All these different pieces. Okay, everyone, let me get my chumash. We're reading from the portion of Vayishlach before we start the Joseph cycle next week. And we are going to begin the reading. I'll introduce the text. We are on page, I believe we start with the 22nd verse, top of the page. I'll know earlier than that. On page 213, verse 12. Now let me try to explain what's going on. First of all, I don't know why it always happens, but my knee always hurts more on this portion. Well, because Jacob has the wrestling match with whomever it could be, and my knee always hurts more. I do this in honor of Jacob every year. So he walked away hobbling because of his hip. I have my knee, but we all have our issues here. But we're going to be discussing Jacob's change in himself. So we're going to share some thoughts about that, who he's wrestling with and what that's all about. But we are, most of the text here is a very difficult one to really have much positive feeling about, but it's a very important text. First of all, we read about the birth of Binyamin, who is born, the second son born to Rachel, and she dies shortly thereafter, which is the sad part of the story, very human, that with all of Jacob's love of Rachel, look at the difficulties that they went through, and he lost the love of his life at an early age. So we'll be reading about the birth of Benjamin, and then we will be seeing the words about the monument that was erected by Jacob in memory of his wife Rachel, Rachel's tomb. Now there's a Rachel's tomb that exists between Jerusalem and Bethlehem. Today it's not the original location. We know that was built probably sometime in the early Middle Ages, but it's not Rachel's place. However, the text does refer to, in plenty of rabbinic texts, that her tomb was erected somewhere between Bethlehem and Jerusalem, that she would weep for the Jewish people not being free and independent in Jerusalem, which is very interesting. So we read about that today in the beautiful community of Efrat that has emerged. The name comes from the reading that we're going to be seeing here today about the Efrat. That was the location of Rachel's tomb. And then we're going to be reading about all of Esau's relatives, which is hard to understand why it's in the Torah text. Why do we spend almost an entire chapter on Esau's, the enemy of the people, the enemy of his own brother Jacob? And I think it's very beautiful that it's there, because despite all of our problems with various nations around us, we never forget that they're human beings, and they're part of history, they're part of the legacy, and we have to understand the entire human experience. And in fact, I have a cousin whose name is Bosmat, and we always teased her because she was one of the wives of Esau, but it's become a rather popular name, and she's very observant, very religious, Datit, in Jerusalem. So we've adopted even the names of Esau's family into our modern Israeli idiom. So let's begin the reading.
Azor v'yogain v'yoshir l'chol chosim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol godela lahenu nu kavod laTorah. Kohen krav ya'amod Eliezer ben Mendel hakohen. Baruch shenatan Torah li'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. V'atem hadvekim b'Adonai lahechem chayim kolchem hayom. The first reading is found on page 214, verse 16.
Amen. Vayesu mi Beitel, vayehiyot kivrat haaretz lavo Ephrata, vateled Rachel, vatekash belidato, vayehi bahakshota belidato, vatomer lo hamalayedet Alteri ki gam zeloch ben vayehi b'tzeit nafsho ki meita vatekro shemo ben uni v'oviv korolo ben yamin vatamar Rachel vatikover b'derech Ephrata hi beit lachem Vayetzav Yaakov matzevo al kavuroto, he matzevet kavuroto Rachel ad hayom. Vayiso Yisrael vayedo hola mahalat lemigdal eder. Vayehi vashkon Yisrael be'eretz ahi vayelech Ruven. Vayishkavet below Pilegesh Aviv Vayishma Yisrael Vayiyu B'nei Yaakov Shnei Mosar B'nei Leah B'chor Yaakov Ruvain V'Shimon V'Levi V'Yehuda V'Yisachar U'Zvulun B'nei Rachel, Yosef, U'Vinyamin, ובני בלהה שפחת רחל דן ונפתלי, ובני זלפה שפחת לאה גד ואשר, אלה בני יעקב אשר יולד לו בפדן ארם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah u'mes v'chayei olam natav esochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
עמדו אליהו בן גדליה הלוי ומרים ואסתר בת אברהם וציפורה לעליית השני.
The second Aliyah is found on page 215, verse 27.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai Olam v'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chabana mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Vayavo Yaakov el Yitzchak aviv mamre Kiryat Arba. Hi Hebron asher gar sham Abraham v'Yitzchak. Vayihyu yemei Yitzchak ma'at shana u'shmonim shana. Vayigva Yitzchak vayamad vayasef el amav zaken usva yamim. Vayikbaru oto Esav Yaakov banav. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yishberach Avotenu Avraham Yaakov. Sariv Korach Avaleya. Please don't leave, Eric. Yes, this is for you. You can't leave me. Esme, you want to stay? All right. Rivka Rechavalea, Yevarech, et Eliyahu ben Gedalia Levi, Miriam, Esther bat Avraham, V'tzipora bavur shebau hayom, lehodo l'shem kodsho lakol hachesed asher gamal, lahem miyom chatunatam, umiyom tzimchat libam ad yom hazeh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmarem v'yatzilem, mikol tzara v'tzuka, umikol nega umachala, v'yizku l'rot tzatzaehem, Oskim b'Torah mitzvot sorchei tzibur, v'yan Eretz Yisrael b'yamunah, v'yishla bracha v'hatzlacha, v'chol maseh yedehem, im kol Yisrael achehem v'domar. Amen. May God who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless dear Eric and Esme, the Ferbers, who have come for an aliyah with reverence for God, respect for the Torah and Shabbat, as they celebrate with us their 46th wedding anniversary. May their marriage covenant continue to be strengthened by what we know of you, love, peace, and mutual respect. And may the Kadosh Baruch Hu protect them and deliver them from all trouble and distress, providing a healthy, blessed, and sacred relationship of love, which you share with us every time we see you. Together with our fellow Jews everywhere, let us all say Amen. Dear respect, our dear President and Esme, nothing but mazel tov and nachas in the days ahead. I'm so grateful you're here. Continue to celebrate. We love you dearly. Of course, mazel tov.
יעמדו יצחק בן חיים ואסתר בת שמואל שלישית.
The Shlishi Aliyah is found on page 216, chapter 36, verse 1.
Baruch hu et Adonai amborach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Bilam
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chabanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ve'ele toldot Esav hu Edom. Esav לקח את נשיו מבנות כנען את עדה בת אלון החיתי ואת אהליבמה בת ענה בת סיבון החיבי ואת Viet Basmat Bat Yishmael Achot Nivayot. Vatele Radal Esav at Eliphaz Uvat Sumat Yoda at Reuel. Yahalivama Yoda at Yeush Viet Yalam Viet Korach Ele B'nei Esav Asher Yuldulo Be'eretz Canaan Vayikach Esav at Nashav Viet Banav Viet Benotav Viet Kol Nafshot Beto Viet Miknehu Viet Kol Behemto Viet Kol Kinyano Asher Rachash Be'eretz Canaan Vayelech El Eretz Mipnei Yaakov Achiv Ki haya rechusham rav mishavet yachtav v'lo yachla eretz megurehem laseit otam mipneihem vayeshev Esav behar seir Esav hu Edom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temed v'chai olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Welcome to our congregation. Yasher koach. Okay.
Amdu Pesach Moshe ben Menachem Mendel Rachel bat Shmuel v'Bina Viet Viet Rachel bat Rivka bat Sarah Revi'i.
The Revi'i Aliyah is found on page 217, verse 9.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Elam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vele Todah Esav Avi Edom Bahar Seir. Ele Shemot Bnei Esav. Eliphaz ben Adah Eshet Esav. Roel ben Bosmat Eshet Esav. Vayu bnei Elhav Teman Omar Tzvo V'gatam Uknaz. V'timna Hayata Pilegesh le'Eliphaz ben Esav Teled Eliphaz et Amalek. Ele b'nei Adah Eshet Esav. Ve'ele b'nei Ruel Nacha v'Zerah Shema, what's her name? Shema u'Mizah. Ele hayu b'nei Bosmat Eshet Esav. Ve'ele hayu b'nei Oholivama Batana bat Zivon. Eshet Esav Teled le'Esav et Yaush et Ayalam Viet Yalam Viet Korach Ele Alufei b'nei Esav b'nei Eliphaz b'chor Esav Aluf Teman Eluf Omar Eluf Tzfo Aluf Kenaz Aluf Korach Aluf Gatam Aluf Amalek Ele Alufei Eliphaz Be'eretz Edom Ele b'nei Adav Ele b'nei Ruel ben Esav Aluf Nachad Aluf Zerach Aluf Shama Aluf Mizah Ele Alufei Ruel Be'eretz Edom Ele b'nei Bosmat Eshet Esav Ele b'nei Olivama Eshet Esav Aluf Yeush Aluf Yalam Aluf Korach Ele Alufei Olivama Batanam Eshet Esav Ele b'nei Esav Ele Alufeihem Hu Edom.
Baruch atah Adonai
welcome. I'll be saying more about all of you.
Ya Amdu, Chanuk ben Velchaim, V'chabat Sivya, Bat Shimon, Menachem V'Leah, V'Shmuel David ben Naphtali V'Leah, Chamishi.
The Chamishi Aliyah is found on page 218, verse 20.
Baruch hu Adonai habarach.
Baruch Adonai Olam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai habarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher barachanu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torto. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Elevenei Seir HaChori Yoshvei Haaretz Lotan V'Shoval V'Tzivon Va'ana V'Dishon V'Eitzer V'Dishon Ele Alufei HaChori V'nei Seir V'Eretz Edom V'Yiyu V'nei Lotan Chori V'Hemam V'Achos Lotan Timna Ve'ele b'nei shoval, alvan umanachas ve'eval, shefo ve'onam. Ve'ele b'nei tzivon ve'aya va'ana, hu'ana. Asher matzah es hayemim b'midbar, bir oso es hachamorim u'tzivon aviv. Ve'ele b'nei ana, dishon, Ve'ahaliva maha pasana, ve'ele b'nei dishan, chemran ve'eshban ve'yisran uchran, ele b'nei eitzer bilhan ve'za'avan ba'akan. Ele b'nei dishan utzva'aran, ele alufei hachori, Aluf Lotan, Aluf Shoval, Aluf Tzivon, Aluf Ana, Aluf Dishon, Aluf Eitzer, Aluf Dishon, Ele Alufei Hachori, La Alufei Hem, the Eretz Seir.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayel olam b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Mazel tov. Yasher koach. Welcome. Welcome to us. A pleasure to have you. Pleasure. I'll be saying more. Okay.
Ya Amdu, Yaso David ben Nachem, V'yista bat Simcha. Irving Mason and Marcia Mason, Shishi.
The Shishi Aliyah is found on page 219, verse 31.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam Vaed.
Baruch atah Olam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'namanu mikol ha'amim, v'notan lanu et torto. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. V'ye'ele hamlachim asher malchu b'eretz Edom, לפני מלך מלך, לפני ישראל, וימלך בדם בלה בן באור, בשם עירה דין הווה, וימות בלה וימלך תחתיו, יובב בן זרח מבוצרה, וימות יובב, וימלך תחתיו, חושם מארץ התימני, וימות חושם, וימלוך תחתיו הדד בן בדד, המכה בדיין בשדה מואב, לשם עיר ערבית. וימות הדד וימלוך תחתיו, סמלה ממסרקה. וימות סמלה וימלוך תחתיו, שאול מרחבות הנהר. וימות שאול וימלוך תחתיו, בעל חנן בן אחפור. וימות בעל חנן בן אחפור, וימלוך תחתיו הדר, בשם עירו פעל, בשם אשתו מתבל, בת מטרד, בת מזהב.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan lanu Torah emes, v'chayei olam nafsheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. I'd like you to stay here. All of our new members have already been called to the Torah. If you'll please rise for this great honor, we want to formally welcome you. Also as a new member, who is taking the 7th Aliyah, also rise. All of our new members. I want to do this now because we have our Shabbat for the Holy Master. But this is a very special honor for me. Some of you are new members, but I have known since I walked in the door at TBS, you're like old members already. But it's a pleasure to welcome you. And we'll have a few more remarks to be said before I speak. But let me begin with these verses. To me, joining a congregation today and feeling the connection of the Jewish people, really from the beginning of those of you who are in my class, the beginning of our earliest institutions, Jewish history, dating back to at least the 3rd, 4th, 5th century before the Common Era, there was no institution like the synagogue that kept the Jewish people alive. That's a historical fact. And supporting synagogues is never taken for granted. It's the lifeblood of Judaism and the Jewish people. So these verses in your honor. Blessed are they who dwell in your house. They shall praise you forever. Blessed the people who are so favored. Blessed the people whose God is Adonai, says the psalmist. May you who have come here, Temple Beth Sholom, be blessed always in the name of Adonai. L'chu v'nilcha be'or Adonai. Adonai, let us always walk together in the light of your presence. You have come here to unite with all to maintain synagogues for tefillah, for prayer, Torah, study, and masim tovim, good deeds. May all of us learn how good it is to live in community, to open our hearts to Torah and Adonai, and as we are one in worship, one family, one people, so may we be one in purpose for whatever reason we gather, dedicated always, every day, to loving and serving God with all our hearts, with all our souls, and with all our might. As you have taken upon yourselves the obligations of membership in our beloved congregation, we heartily, warmly, with love, welcome you. Your families and all your dear ones are also a part of us, hoping that you will help maintain our beloved congregation as a holy congregation. May it be your will, Adonai, our God, and God of our ancestors, to grant our portion in your Torah. May we all be disciples of Aharon, of Aaron, HaKohen, the Kohen, loving peace, pursuing peace, loving all people, and drawing them closer to your Torah. Thank you for joining us in that enterprise. May God bless you. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'kuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you from harm. May God bless you with love and kindness, the embrace of your larger family. May God lift you and guide you on the paths of Torah, and helping all of us walk on the paths of Torah. May you and all of us be blessed with shalom, with peace. Welcome.
Siman tov u'mazel tov
Mazel tov v'siman tov.
Siman tov u'mazel tov
Mazel tov v'siman tov.
Siman tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov v'siman tov Yehelanu 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 Olechol Yisrael Yehelanu Yehelanu Olechol Yisrael Siman tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov v'siman tov Siman tov u'mazel tov
Mazel tov
Siman tov Siman tov u'mazel tov Mazel tov v'siman tov
If we were in
Yehelanu
Israel, we'd be throwing candy at you.
Amdu Yitzchak Arya Ben Yehoshua Alter Gittel Elka Sarabad Avraham V'dan Sarot Shvi'i.
The Shvi'i Aliyah is found on page 220, verse 40.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'yele shemot alufei esav levishpichotam limkomotam bishmotam aluf timna aluf aleva aluf yetet aluf olivama Aluf Ela, Aluf Pinon, Aluf Kenaz, Aluf Teman, Aluf Miftzar, Aluf Magdiel, Aluf Iram, Eile, Aluf Edom, Moshevotam, Be'eretz Achutatam, Esav Avi Edom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
El Rifanala, El Rifanala, El Rifanala, El Rifanala, join me. El Rifanala, El Rifanala.
Please rise as we recite the Mishabera for those who are ill, remembered in our tefillah this Shabbat. Mishaberach Avotinu Avram and Yaakov, V'imotinu Sarah Rivka Rachav Aleya, V'yivarech v'rapeh et kol hacholim. Tevye Gershom ben Aharon Aviva Rivka, Tzvi Yitzra ben Shima v'Chaya, David Yosef ben Chana Basha, Bat Megillah bat Nechama Leah, Chana Chenover, Yitzrat bat Shulamit, Rivka Shifra bat Sarah Razel, Susan Burmaster, Juliana Parecki, Talia bat Moshe Julie Rachel, Carol Fega bat Ephraim Avraham, Chaya bat Golda, Chava bat Yochevet, Priscilla Reisinger, Tova bat Miriam V. Yitzchak, Lily Gibson, Rabbi Everett Gendler, Dr. Larry Altshuler. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Yimalehem, V'hatnikan l'rapotav yishlach lahem, meheira v'rfuah shlema min hashamayim, rifut hanefesh u'rifut haguf, v'tosher lecholim, v'chazek yedidei ha'oskim b'tzorchehem, Shabbat imizol krofo lavo, hashna bizman kariv v'nomar.
Amen.
May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bring blessing and healing to all of our loved ones we have remembered in our prayers this morning. May the Holy One mercy restore them to health and vigor, granting them spiritual and physical well-being, together with all others who are ill. And may God grant strength to those who tend to those who are ill. And it's Shabbat. We do not cry out, yet still we hope and pray that healing, refuah, is at hand. And let us say,
May the source of strength to bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Nishaberach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
see Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, v'yalmati rakirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechonu v'yomechon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'kala, uv'izman kariv, v'yimaru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah Mavorach, le'olam ome'amaya yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shemei dekudusha brichu. Leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran v'alma, v'yamaru amen. Ya'amdu Hazan Nachum ben David v'chana v'sarabat Yair v'tzipora maftir.
The Maftir Aliyah is again found on page 220, verse 40.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah. V'yehi Shemot alufei Esav le'mishpechotam, למקומותם, בשמותם, אלוף תמנע, אלוף אלווה, אלוף יתת, אלוף אהליבמה, אלוף אלה, אלוף פינן, אלוף כנז, אלוף תימן, אלוף מבצח, אלוף מגדיאל, אלוף ירם, אלה אלופי אדום, למושבותם בארץ אחוזתם, הוא עשיו אבי אדום. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
We wish the Newmans, Saraneh and Deal, Kander Newman, a wonderful Nasiya Tova to Eretz Yisrael. Envious, you have room in your suitcase for me? Any excuse to go to Israel. God bless you. Only good. I know you'll come back with wonderful. Want to hear all the positive news. Please rise, everyone, with love.
Hamagbiva hagolelet.
Zot HaTorah asher shel Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai biyad Moshe.
וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה. וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה. La 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 la.
Please be seated. We are going to be hearing the words of the prophet Obadiah, Obi. These are the only words we have of him. It's short, and it's this is 6th century before the Common Era, and it's very harsh about Edom, Esav, and the relation with the Torah portion. But I want my students who come on Wednesday morning to note the 3 pillars. I said in every prophecy, there are 3 main themes. They all copied Amos. That is, the paradox of Israel's election, the double standard for Israel, punished more for lesser crimes than the other nations, given in the prophets. There is a Yom Adonai, a day of God coming, of reckoning, a day of judgment for all the evil nations of the world, and including Israel. You'll see that here also in Obadiah. And then he says very clearly, there will always be a She'erit Yisrael, a remnant of the Jewish people, who will carry on Jerusalem, carry on the covenant, and live forever. 3 things. They're all here in these short verses of Obadiah. Kenner Newman.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'dim tovim, v'ratza b'divreihem הנאמרים באמת. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בתורה ובמשה עבדו ובישראל עמו ובנביאי האמת והצדק.
Verse 8.
We begin the Haftarah with verse 8. הלא ביום ההוא נאום אדוני ואהבתי חכמים מאדם ותבונה מהחסב וחטאו גיבוריך תימן למען יקראתי איש מהחסב מקטל מחמס אחיך יעקב תכסך בושה וניחת לעולם ביום עמדך מנגד ביום שבות זרים חילו ונוכרים באו שעריו ירושלים ידעו גורל גם אתה כאחד מהם. ואל תראה ביום אחיך ויום נוכרו, ואל תשמח לבני יהודה ביום עובדם, ואל תגדל פיך ביום צרה. אל תבוא בשרמי ביום אדם, אל תראה גם אתה ברעתו ביום עדו, ואל תשלחת בחילה ביום עדו. ואל תעמוד על הפרק להכרית את פליטיו, ואל תסגר שרידיו ביום צרה. כי קרוב יום אדוני על כל הגויים, כאשר עשית יעשה לך גמולך, ישוב בראשך. כי כאשר שתיתם על הקודשי, ישתו כל הגויים תמיד, ושתו ולהו והיו כלא היו. ובהר ציון תהיה פליטה והיה קודש, וירשו בית יעקב את מורשם. והיה בית יעקב אש, ובית יוסף להבה, ובית עשיו לקש, ודלקו בהם בחלום, ולא יהיה שריד לבית עשיו, כי אדוני דיבר. וירשו הנגב את הר עשיו, וישפלה את פלישתים, וירשו את שדה אפרים, ואת שדה שומרון ובנימין את הגלעד. וגלות החל הזה לבני ישראל אשר כנענים עד צרפת, וגלות ירושלים אשר בספרד ישו את הרי הנגב. ויעלו מושיעים בהר ציון לשפוט את הר עשיו, והייתה לאדוני המלוכה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות. האל הנאמן אומר ויוסף, דבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך אחר לא ישוב ריקם. כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי בית חיינו, ולעבוד נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני, משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד בשיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגן ליבנו על כיסא לא ישזר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד.
אמן.
על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך לפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. Shakoach. Well done. Chaver. Well done. L'sia tova. Please rise, everyone. Instead of our regular prayer for the country, I want to recite this passage in honor of the American holiday of Thanksgiving, which is about to come. And I said some words about that last night. Thanksgiving is based upon the roots in our Torah. The 26th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy, the pilgrims, when they came to this country, wanted to establish a Zion in the new land. They tried to speak Hebrew. They forbade the celebration of Christmas. They brought in the Jewish holidays. This is the roots of American history, and we should all know that. It's part of history that, unfortunately, a lot of Americans don't understand. The religious and Hebraic roots of this country's very foundation. So in honor of Thanksgiving, which is a holiday we can all celebrate very proudly, I'd like to read the following about gratitude. We must often revive the gladness of gratitude and retrain our lips to utter words of thanks. God's gifts often go unnoticed in our haste, and disappointments may blind us to our blessings. We render thanks for life itself, for sight, hearing, smell, and touch, like Sukkot, for the certainty that an ever-renewing vital force infuses us and vibrates in the glory about us. We give thanks for the beauty of nature and its gifts, and pray that we may share as richly as we have received. We stand in wonder before the birth of children, the miracle of their growth, their love, and laughter. We are grateful for love and the opening of hearts between husband and wife, parents and children. We give thanks for our freedom while knowing its frailty, and recognize our obligation to nurture and protect it. We are grateful for the blessings we enjoy in this country, this nation, and hope that we may share in the renewal of its vigor. We are grateful for the gifts of knowledge and conscience, enabling us to know truth from falsehood, right from wrong, disturbing our peace when the blessings we enjoy are denied to others, when their need for justice and compassion is unfilled. We give thanks to God who shares with us a small spark of his glory and wisdom, involving us in the drama which is both his and ours, the partnership of completing the work of creation. And now we turn in our prayer books to page 178, as we have honored the United States of America. At Thanksgiving time, we now honor the state of Israel with our prayer. Together, Avinu Shebashamayim, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel, bless the state of Israel, the beginning of our redemption. Shield it with your love, spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. Let us say amen. And just a quick news item that you all should know, didn't get any attention in the media, but last week there was an Iranian missile fired at an American base in Syria. If not for the Israelis on top of that intelligence, the American soldiers were able to move from the bases, and it's estimated between 200 and 300 American soldiers might have been killed in that missile raid. God bless America, God bless Israel. Well, please be seated. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha. Page 181.
Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, O Jehallelucha Selah. Ashrei Ha'am Shekach Lo, Ashrei Ha'am Shadonai Elohav, Tihila LeDavid, Haromimcha Elohai HaMelech, Va'avarecha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed, B'chol Yom Avarecha, Va'ahalel Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed. Gadol Adonai umhula me'od, v'li gdulato ein cheker. Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha, ugvuratecha yagidu. Hadar kevod hodecha, v'divrei nifla'atecha asicha. Ve'ezuz noratecha yomeru, ugdulatecha saprena. Zecher rav tuvecha yabi, uvetzitkatecha yiranenu. Anun berachum Adonai, erech apayim ugdachased. Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachamav al kol masav. Yaducho Adonai kol maasecha, v'chasidecha yevarchucha. Kevod malchutcha yomeru, ugvuratecha yedaberu. Lehodia livnei ha'adam gevuratav, ugvod hadar malchuto. Malchutecha, malchut kol amim, umemshaltecha bechador vador. Somech Adonai lecha hanoflim, v'zokeif lecha hakafufim. Einei cholei lecha yesaberu, v'ata naten lahem et ochlam b'hito, poteach et yadecha. Umaspiach lefachai ratzon, tzadik Adonai b'chol derachav, v'chasid b'chol ma'asav. Karov Adonai l'cha karov, l'chol asher yikra'u ve'emet. Ritzon yireav ya'aseh, v'et shavotam yishma v'yoshiem. Shomer Adonai et kol havav, v'et kar hashayim yashmid. Tehillat Adonai yiraber pi, v'varech kol basar shem kadsho lilam v'hed. Vanachnu nevarech ya, me'ata v'ad olam. Hallelujah.
Please rise. Page 183. Hallelujah.
Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskaf shemo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren liamo. Tehillah lecho chasidav, livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Mizmor leDavid, havul Adonai b'nei Elim, havul Adonai, kavod va'oz, havul Adonai, kevod shemo, ishtachvavu Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim. Adonai hamayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach. Kol Adonai behadar. Kol Adonai shover razim, v'shaber Adonai et arzei halva Lebanon, Vayarkidem Kemo Egel, Lebanon, Vesirion, Kemo Ben Re'emi, my Kol Adonai Chotzev Lahavotesh, Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yicholel Hayalot, Vayechesof, Ye'arot, Uvahechalo, Kulo Omer Kavod, ay, Adonai Lama Buyashav, Yeshev Adonai Melech Leolam, Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yavarech et Amo Vashalom, Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dam, Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai, Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dam, Yai-dai-dai-dam, Uvnucho Yomar. Ki lekach tov natati lachem Torati al tazovu eitz chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomecheha Meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem Yam badadai dai 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 Yai da dai dai Yam badadai dai 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 Yai da dai 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 Yam badadai dai 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 Yai da dai Yai da dai Yai dai 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 Hashivenu Elecha Venashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
Thank you, Deborah. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. As I often do, if there's something that comes up, I have prepared remarks, I have scribbled remarks, but I did want to just say a few words without taking sides. A very volatile issue, what's going on in our country as a whole, but a few remarks, I think, for us perhaps to gain a little perspective on what's going on with the Kyle Rittenhouse, a very famous case that's occupied our attention this week. I studied at length Talmud, rabbinic law, and I had a great professor. His name was Rabbi Ben-Zion Bergman, taught at the University of Judaism. And he's a lawyer as well. And he said, you know, the whole basis of American law comes from Talmudic law. The same arguments in class we had about the rights of the accused, of the obligations of the court, of testimony, it all comes from rabbinic laws. It's essentially the foundation of Western civilization, came from our own text, way beyond. We were so far advanced from other civilizations. Just a couple of remarks here. You know, in the Talmud, when someone's accused of a crime, generally the gist of rabbinic law goes way over backwards to make sure that the rights of the accused are protected from top to bottom, in every way. It was considered the most solemn responsibility that a Beit Din, of course in those days there were, in rabbinic law there was no jury, trial by jury, there was a rabbinic court of three. And so it was up to the rabbis to decide guilt and innocence. And the rabbis were so careful about sentencing anybody to death that they said if there was one who was put to death when the Sanhedrin had the ability to do so, in 65 years, that was considered to be a bloody court. So when someone is accused of murder, as in American law, but especially in Jewish law, it's almost impossible to convict someone who is accused. The right of self-defense is throughout the Talmud. Just so you know, that was the essence of this trial, whether we agreed with the outcome or not. It's a very important argument to be made in these cases based upon the Torah verse, Lo ta'amod al dam naki. You should not stand by if blood is being shed, including your own. And I remember I had a lengthy conversation with an imam in London. This was at the time when the Israelis were killing terrorists who were trying to kill innocent people in an act of self-defense. Because the Torah says, by the way, it doesn't say lo taharo, you shall not kill. It says lo tirtzach, you shall not murder. And to kill someone in order to preserve life is not considered to be murder. Either it's the defense of ourselves or to protect others. So the Israelis were assigned, as they are by Jewish law, to protect those who are under siege from terrorist attacks. But I'll never forget this argument. I said, he didn't accept it. He said, there's such outrage, they should be allowed to kill whomever they want. My mouth dropped. I couldn't believe the mentality. They didn't understand a basic principle, what I would think of Jewish law, but human law, that if someone is trying to hurt another person, there's an obligation to make sure that person does not either harm myself or another human being. That is the basis of Jewish law. Whether the court did the right thing, the jury did the right thing or not, that's for us to discuss. The United States legal system, as I mentioned, much of it is based upon the premises of Jewish law. It's not a perfect system. There's no system that's perfect in the whole world. It was just a few months ago, by the way, in France, where one judge decided to exonerate a murderer who threw an 85-year-old French Jewish doctor, survivor of the Holocaust, out of her window and let him walk. That was an arbitrary decision made, and of course we were all upset about it around the world. Since then, the court reversed its decision, and that person was found guilty of murder. So court systems and judges, we're dealing with human beings here. If we want to find a perfect system, you're not going to find it. But I do believe that American legal system is about the best in the world, and we should be feel very fortunate at Thanksgiving that we live in a country in which there is a court system and laws that protect all of us. And I share that with you because I worked very closely with some very eminent attorneys on court cases of Sharansky and others who were sent to life in prison sentences in the former Soviet Union for advocating human rights. Because in the Soviet Union, what decided right and wrong was the state. It was the party. And so if there was interference with the party and decisions, there was no process of law at all. I cannot tell you how horrific it was to realize that there was no legal system, but there was a government deciding right and wrong before cases even appeared. Natan Sharansky sentenced to life in prison as if he was the most cruel human being in the history of the Soviet Union. So I just point that out to you because I believe that we Americans distort what gifts we have here. And I do believe that we better wake up before it's too late. Because if we don't preserve our system, for better and worse, there's no perfect system, but it's a darn good one. And If we lose it, we're going to see our society really collapse, because if there's anything that the rabbis taught us from the Talmud, is that without law, we are doomed as a society. There's no hope any longer. We can't let the mobs, we can't let government officials decide who is right and wrong. We've got to let the court system, for better or for worse, in my view, play itself out. I'll never forget this reminds me when the O.J. Simpson case, when he was found not guilty of his murder, and how upset we were with that. But still, people didn't go on the streets and burn buildings, stop traffic. Might have been a problem with that decision, however we felt about it or not. I know my father, as a lawyer, was very upset with that. He followed that case carefully. But that is our system. And with all of its flaws and blemishes, it's a darn good system. And no matter the passions here, I hope and pray nobody gets hurt, whether it be the jurors or the judge who was appointed by President Obama, is now being accused of being a right-wing extremist. I hope that they're all protected. I hope that our system of law will be protected in our society. I also think that one of the bigger problems that people are feeling very unprotected now, either feeling protected by the legal system, and certainly this whole mess occurred because there was lawlessness in the streets of Kenosha, and it was like the Wild West again. There was the police had disappeared, the National Guard wasn't called. There's a lot of context here for a lot of social issues in my mind that should be addressed. We had people coming here last night from Portland, Oregon, and my wife and I know that we were in Portland, Oregon. It's was one of the most beautiful cities you could possibly imagine. It was just gorgeous with arts and freedom. He said, you can't go downtown anymore. There's rats and trash and lawlessness and burned buildings. It's finished, done. The city's gone. So people are feeling, if we don't deal with these societal pressures right now, we're going to have more issues like this. I just hope and pray that our leaders will send us a very strong message that you might not like the decision made, but this is the best of the best legal systems in the world. We have to cherish it and protect it. That's my view. You might disagree. I think we can talk about it. It's a very, very important part of our lives. But I'm going to abbreviate my remarks here because they seem to pale in significance with what I just shared. But I wanted to talk about Jacob. I mentioned my right knee. It always hurts more at Vayishlach. We didn't read. It's in the opening verses of the Torah portion about Jacob's wrestling match with, there's all kinds of interpretations, an angel, another man, with Esau, with God. But there's an interesting track in the commentaries of our rabbis that Jacob is wrestling with himself. Very interesting. Almost, I've done this before when we try to figure out where Sigmund Freud came from, the founder of modern psychology. He was a Talmud student. He grew up in a very religious home. And I don't know if this has ever been written, but there's no doubt that as he studied rabbinic commentary and midrash, the midrash delves into psychology, the motives of our character. They fill in a lot of the gaps of our Torah text. So a good Talmudic student can't help but try to psychoanalyze our characters here. And there's a stream of commentary that Jacob, when he was born, holding on to the heel of his older brother, really wanted to be like Esau. His intentions were to try to be like his older brother. And as he stole the birthright from him, he had this perpetual guilt because he really admired the physical acumen of his older brother Esau. And everything he did, deceiving everyone after that, was an indication, according to many of the Meforshim of the commentators, that here was a younger brother who was frustrated with himself because he didn't know who he was. He wanted to be like his brother, He was fearful of what his brother was going to do and seeking revenge against him, as we read in the Torah portion. And then the commentators say this, that after he had his wrestling match, Jacob's given a new name from Yaakov, the heel, to Yisrael, the one who strives with God and prevails. He's given this new name, which means that he finally realized he should stop trying to be like others, and he should find that peace in himself. A very interesting interpretation. Only when he stopped trying to be like his brother could he find peace. There's a strain of that in Shakespeare, to find the peace with himself and with the world. And there's a lot of different strands here about political leaders. The rabbis talked about their own leaders who pandered to the audience. You know, we had in our class our unit on the prophets. What was unique about the prophets of Israel is that they were not hired hands to say and repeat whatever the elected leaders wanted them to say. They were prophets. They spoke the truth, and they were not afraid of doing so. And that's what made them prophets. Even when Jeremiah was thrown into prison and hated by the people, we're reading his words today and not others, because he spoke his mind. His goal was not to be popular. His goal was to tell the truth from conviction and principle. And I think that our society is begging for that. I hope that as a rabbi, I will always be able to share my thoughts without fear, but with a great deal of empathy and sympathy and care with every word that I share. But I don't think anybody wants a rabbi who just does what the Kehillah wants him or her to say. It's a very important factor of being a leader. I'll give you a couple of examples I love to share from history. President Abraham Lincoln, who's now considered to be the greatest of American presidents, when he was president, and he was, if there were polls taken in August 1864, everybody agreed he was going to lose the election. He was hated. He was hated by the Southerners for sure, but he was also hated by the Northerners because the war wasn't going well. There was incompetence at the top. He was called a despot. He eliminated, what was it called with the legal, habeas corpus. He was considered to be a subverter of the Constitution. He was considered to be a destroyer of his country. And many called him weak. Many others called him ruthless, a warmonger, reckless, and heartless. You can look it up. Abraham Lincoln. Look at his reputation now. Winston Churchill, I always refer to him because that's such a classic case of someone, even during World War II, he was fighting the Nazis and had such tremendous leadership qualities, was called a racist, a warmonger, and a failure. What most people don't know is that in the early stages of World War II, there was a large group of Brits who wanted them to surrender to the Nazis, just give it up. So Churchill was hated for that. And look at the way we view him today. He wrote about the complaints. He said, "Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no less enthusiasm, no loss of enthusiasm." You have to stay true to your convictions, and you have to do that. And I think that's important for all of us, whether it be our relations and family or jobs or with whatever it is. We wrestle with ourselves, but I think the great wrestling that I hope we can all be like Jacob, to emerge from Yaakov to Yisrael, and to be comfortable with ourselves and the truth within ourselves, to stay true to our beliefs. And I think this is a great message for every Jew in the world. Stop trying to be like everybody else. Stop assimilation to the point where you want to obliterate your identity. Know yourself. Be Yisrael. Don't be Yaakov. Be Yisrael. Be a strong and proud Jew. Be a learned Jew. Be a practicing Jew. And share that with the world. There is no greater way of stopping anti-Semitism and hatred of us, as Jacob found out. unless he could stand up and say, I am Yisrael. I am part of this people, and I'm at peace with who I am and what I represent to the world. So I wanted to share that with you. It's a great, great text. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Let's rise now for the Chatzi Kaddish before the Musaf Amidah for Shabbat on page 184. We're going to begin together, and then after the Kedusha, we will recite the remainder of the Amidah silently through page 192. First, page 184.
Yitkadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad divra kirutei, v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. V'agalav izman karif, v'imaru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam o'amei Amaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnasei. V'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha, berichu. Le'ela mimkal berchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran ve'ama, v'imaru. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasei Avot, u'Mevi Goel Limnei V'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Yahava. Melech Ozer Ufoked U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham Ufoked Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Metim Atav Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem. Mechakel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayei Metim B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umidom Elach, Melech Meimit Umachayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emanata L'Hachayot Meitim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaMeitim.
Kedusha, page 187. Ari Savanach Dishcha. Kesosia Safei Kodesh Makdishim Shimcha. Vakodesh Kakatuv Yanaviach Brazel Zevimar.
Naritzacha v'nakdishecha, Kesotziach Sarfei Kodesh, Amakdishim Shimcha Bakodesh, Kakatuv Ayad Neviyecha, V'Kazel Zeviyamar.
Kadosh, Kadosh, Adonai Tzavot, Loklaretz Kevodo.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavot, Melochol Haaretz Kevodo. Kevodo, Mahale, Mahale, Olam Hayim Mekom Kevodo. Kevodo, Mahale, Mahale, Olam Hayim Mekom Kevodo. Kevodo,
שואלים שואלים זה לזה איה מקום כבודו משרתיו שואלים שואלים זה לזה איה מקום כבודו ליומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו בכל יום תמיד פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים ויחונם המייחדים שמו ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים שמה ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שאין נדלי אין לכוחי ללי די 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 ללי די 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 ללי די 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 ללי די 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 להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד לך לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד לך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם לעולם ועד לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד לך לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד לך כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה וקדוש אתה כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש תיקנת שבת ורצית קופדותיה וגם לבנים ולבנים בחרו יהי רצון לפניך ולבתינו ולבתינו נשיבנו לכולם את קורבנותיהם כמין יסודם וסמכו חתם מוסף יום השבת הזה יום השבת שנכנסים בני שבת ימים ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת קוראים קדשנו במצוותיך אדרי לבבנו ויבואו לעשות שבת קודשך ברוך אתה לנו מחזיר שכנתו לציון מודים אנחנו לשתנו דברו הטוב כי לא חלו רחמך רחם כי לא טוב חסדך
Usa shalom, shalom bin romav, hu yaseh shalom. Usa shalom, shalom bin romav, hu yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al Yisrael ve'imaru amen. Ve'imaru amen.
Kaddish Shalem, page 203.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash me rabba.
Amen.
Ve'amad ivra kirute ve'amlich malchute. V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Bagalav isman kari v'imaru. Amen. Yehesh me rabba mevorach. Le'olam le'olam Yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalau shmei d'kudesh abrichu. Le'elam imka brachata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata damiram b'yama v'imaru. Amen. Titkabau tzalot tahon v'utahon t'chol Yisrael. Kodam avahon divishmaya v'imaru. Amen. Yehi shlam araba min shamaya. V'chaim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imaru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom,
Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, amen.
Page 204, Ein Keloheinu.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu. Mi Eloheinu, Mi Kadoneinu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shechitiru, Avotenu lefanecha et ketoret asamim. En Keloheinu, En Kadoneinu, En Kemalkeinu, En
Kemoshienu aleinu. Page 205.
Aleinu l'shabeach li'adon hakol, la'seis gedula li'otzer bereshit, shelo asanu kikoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kamishbachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechal hamonam, va'anachnu korim, Umishtakavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser haaretz umoshav yakaro b'shamayim imahal ushchinas uzo begovhei meromim hu Eloheinu ein od emes malkeinu efes ulato Kakatu betorato yadata hayom v'hashevota elevavecha ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim b'shamayim nimahal v'yal haaretz mitachat einod. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch liolam vahed v'ne'emar v'hayo Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Please be seated, everyone. Let's pause now to remember loved ones whose yahrzeits are observed this week. First, our note of the passing of Saul Mandel, Zichrono Livracha, blessed memory, passed away, longtime member of our congregation. We send our wishes, condolences to Evelyn, his wife, his children, Brad and Todd, and Wendy of blessed memory. We also note the yahrzeits observed this week before the coming of Hanukkah of Rose Rubin, Minnie Ross, Samuel Oldsman, Esther Wexler, Bernard Ban, Leonard Shear, Randla Kleinbaum, Jane Shotkin, Mortimer Rose, Ida Schreiman, did I pronounce that right, Schreiman? Samuel Bortnick, Minnie Deutsch, Paul Deutsch, Eugene Fisher, Milton Goldfarb, Leonard Hecht, Andrew Rick, Rose Kessler Waldman, Sarah Gelman, Sarah Friedman Cover, Carol Ochik, Hinnie Parecki, Ida Schiffman, Susan Benjamin, Judith Freund, George Charney, Calvin Bronson, Bernard Rubin, Max Rubin, Rose Richmond, Hannah Lazen, Sarah Gelman, Michael Corbino, Marie Woolley, Clara Seiger, Solly Swore, Mary Shuchat, and Leonard Heck, and Judge Marvin Silverman, all of blessed memory. Those remembering yahrzeits, those still in mourning, please rise for the Kaddish in their memory. Page 207. Together, Yitgadal v'Yitgadal Shemei Rabbah, v'Yalma divrach Erutev Yamlich Malchuteh, v'Chayechon of Yamechon, Chaye T'chol Beit Yisrael, v'Agala uv'Yizman Kariv Imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'lam v'lam Yamaya, Yiparach v'Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar v'Yitromam v'Yitnaseh, v'Yitadar v'Yitaleh v'Yitalal, Shmei Kudusha Brichu, Leila min kol bechata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran bi'amal v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, u'yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha. Please be seated. I'd like to introduce the president of our congregation, my dear friend, our friend, Dr. Eric Ferber.
Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos to you all. It's wonderful to see such a large group of people here this morning. A warm welcome to our regular members, our snowbirds. We've missed you, so we welcome you back. We welcome our honored new members And also, I believe there are some prospective new members, so I hope you can see what a wonderful congregation this is. This is truly a joyous occasion. It is so wonderful to celebrate happy occasions together, especially since we've been through the dark days of COVID. It's wonderful for us all to be together again, and having new members is truly wonderful. Members are the lifeblood of our congregation, and so with new members, I think you are a transfusion. You're transfusing into our congregation from elsewhere, and also you're an infusion because you infuse new energy, enthusiasm, new strengths, and new ideas. So we welcome you with open arms. I'd like to tell the congregants that the new members are a particularly smart group of people. Why do I say smart? Because they were smart enough to realize this was the only shul to join. You have joined a congregation which has a warm, wonderful atmosphere, great camaraderie. We've got an extraordinary new rabbi, as you have already seen. We have a dedicated staff. We've got a program and continuing education program which is second to none. I urge you to get involved, join committees, get involved, really do as much as you can for the congregation. I would like to, at this point, also recognize Susan Kahn, our chair of the membership committee, for all she has done. Sarah A. Newman, who is the board liaison for the membership committee. I'd also like to thank past presidents Carol Shatoff and Adele Tannenbaum for all they have done also. Everybody on the membership committee has done a lot to ensure enthusiastic new members. So I'd like to thank them all. So the congregation wishes new members well. We hope that you will have a rewarding time in the years to come. This is your new spiritual home. So we all wish you well, and continue to enjoy TBS. I can tell you the future has never been brighter. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Susan Kahn, I also want to express my public thanks for Susan, a real light in our congregation, and you've done so much to set the tone. We're going to even have a greater response. People are coming every week to join the congregation, so a lot of it has to do with Susan. Thank you. Well,
so welcome to Temple Beth Sholom. I'm Susan Kahn, membership chair, and that is because a few people in this very room will tell you that I will make friends with anyone. And would you believe my first time in Temple Beth Sholom was just a little over 2 years ago. We attended high holiday services in 2019 as prospective members, and we couldn't get over the warm greeting we received from people who had never even seen us. I'm not going to lie, the first few months of our relocation to Sarasota was not easy for me. I miss my friends, my family, and my comfort zone, although I couldn't necessarily define what my comfort zone was. But I had yet to feel comfortable in our Sarasota environs until I came to Temple Beth Sholom. It may sound a bit hokey, but truth be told, my husband David and myself knew that this place, this sanctuary, this congregation would provide the comfort that we, maybe more me, so desired. We are amongst fellow transplants, fellow Patriots fans, and a decent amount of people that had a similar passion for Judaism. Let me tell you, we had a really good time playing Jewish geography and making more than one connection. Temple Beth Sholom does all of that and more. We have thoroughly enjoyed the services in the words of Rabbi Altshuler. We have both become involved with temple events and activities and committees, and have made wonderful friends, a Florida family of sorts that we feel as if we've known for years. Even our boys have visited and attended Rosh Hashanah services, and even at 24 and 25 commented on how nice the services were. And personally, I find that impressive that they even noticed. By being members of this wonderful Hamish congregation, I am relieved to say that we have found our comfort zone. And I hope that all of you will always feel as welcome as we have. And as we go, I would like to welcome all of you, Lynn Brock, Brenda Johnston, Karen and Paul Cade, Vivian and Isaac Calvaria, Henry Leopold and Susan Rapport, Elaine and Soher Marks, Marcia and Irving Mason, Joyce and Jeff Omansky, Don Sirot, Sarah and Daniel Stoltz, Jordan Wallach, and via Zoom, David Button and Susie and Larry Miller. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Susan. And it's a special group because this is the group that's starting with me, so it's a very special year. I wish I could embrace all of you, but our elbows are getting better, every week. I want to also now introduce, on a change of pace, Dr. Andrew Krinsky is going to say a few words about what's going on with COVID and our congregation's responsibilities, what we're doing. This gentleman, along with Dr. Benjamin Sachs, have given so much of their time to this community to make sure we're doing the right things. And I'm honored as your rabbi and as speaking for all of us, how thankful we are for everything you've done, Doctor. So please, anxious to hear you.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Lots of different directions we can go, but I will promise to try to keep this brief. I'm here on behalf of our COVID Task Force Committee, and just understand that as we meet, and we've met a lot, we probably average more than one meeting a month, and that's going back 18 months. It's a lot of meetings, and they can be quite spirited. We're not of one mind, but all we're trying to do is create a safe place for all of you. And that's not as easy as it may seem. It may seem a logical thing for us to try to do, but these aren't logical times, and the coronavirus is not very logical. It doesn't really behave the way we would like it. I'm a glass half full kind of a person, and to prove that, I would say look around the room and imagine where we were a year ago. We were home on Zoom. I think we've come a long way. This is an amazing crowd, and we're together, and we feel safe, and we're just going to try to keep moving in a forward direction. We're constantly talking about all the things that go into keeping ourselves safe from the virus. Fortunately, not only is Israel looking out over our Air Force bases in Syria, but they're always ahead in the science. And a lot of what we are doing in this country, including the recommendations that came just yesterday, I believe, for all people to consider getting a booster vaccine, come from the data, from the science that Israel is able to accomplish. Now, the logistics there are a lot easier than here, sure, but they got a head start. They have one vaccine, but they're constantly providing the scientific information that this country needs to help give us sound recommendations or recommendations to try to move us forward and deal with the virus. If you haven't been vaccinated, I would clearly ask you to speak with your physician about the pros and cons, the pluses and minuses of vaccination. I don't think I'm speaking to a lot of people, so let's switch over to boosters. If you haven't been boosted, same thing. Speak to your physician about the pros and cons, the timing, the need for boostering of your vaccination status. And I'll just finish by giving you, hopefully, maybe a little bit of a simplistic, overly simplistic explanation of why we're boostering. Is that a failure? I don't consider it a failure of the vaccines. I think that from the onset, if you were listening and reading about vaccines, the word booster was there. Boostering vaccines is not new. What's new is this virus, and we're trying to fight it real time. It's kind of like if you were in the middle of a football game making decisions. I mean, you can go by what's happened in the past, but at some point you have to make decisions based on what's happening on the field. And this virus has taken us for a ride. It has. And we're still in the midst of a pandemic. I point to the glass half full here in this room, but you also probably read that in Europe, countries are starting to shut down again. So the pandemic isn't over, but we're not giving up. Now here's the thing with the boostering. In the beginning, we went and vaccinated ourselves. And lo and behold, we were vaccinated to a much higher degree than we had anticipated, and that was a good thing. The number is 94, 95%. And basically those numbers and what we were talking about was the antibodies. Everyone's heard of the antibodies. Let's consider the antibodies the front door. So what those vaccines did, if given properly, is they closed the front door to the virus. While they were closing the front door, and you're building up these antibodies, other parts of your immune system are at work to protect you if, in fact, the virus should sneak in, which it does, okay? 95 is not 100. What happened? Why are we talking about boosters? Again, I don't think anyone could predict at the time that the initial vaccines were given exactly when and if we would need boosters, but it happened. Again, Israel ahead in collecting the information to tell us what's happening. The antibody levels drop. The front door cracks open. The virus gets in. What does that mean? Well, in the beginning, we don't know what it means because it's just a bunch of numbers and data. But unfortunately, Israel is able to prove that what it means is that people are getting sick again, not just positive test, not just a cold, but they're getting sick again, and they're going to the hospital again. And finally, they're dying again. And what group of people is hardest hit? The same group of people that was at risk at the beginning. Basically, the vast majority of us here in the building. Those of a mature age, let's put it. And those of us who may or may not have one or more maladies. I myself, at the tender age of 66, also has hypertension. So I put myself in a risk factor above and beyond a lot of the young, healthy people that almost always just get a cold. Herein lies the challenge. So what do the boosters do? So the boosters basically are an attempt to close that front door again. And guess what? Israel and the data is showing that yes, the boosters are closing the front door once again, back up into that 95 range. What does that mean moving forward? I can't say much more because we're still playing this football game real time. I'd like to think, if you can remember, there was I like to be sarcastic, so I like to tell people that there was a moment in time, it lasted about 5 minutes in June, when we were allowed to go to restaurants without our masks on if we were vaccinated. Maybe it was 6 minutes, but it didn't seem much longer than that. I think I managed to get one restaurant in during that period of time. Well, I'd like to think that we get back to that we close that front door. It's nature, it's science, it's virus, it's vaccine. It's not unusual or unpredicted to have the antibody levels in our body drop. The other thing that happened is that the virus took a turn for the worse and became much more rapid in terms of its ability to reproduce itself. So the combination of our own immune systems getting a little tired and the levels of everything waning and the increase of the amount of virus that was present with the Delta variant, those two things have combined to put us in this situation now. So my message again, please, if you haven't been boosted, I can't tell you individually to go get boosted. I can ask you to speak to your doctor. That's the message from the task force. Boostering is a way to protect yourself, and it's a way to protect everyone around you, because it's never about just yourself. It's all of our obligation to protect everyone around us. There are people who will never be immune from this virus, and we have to do as much as possible to annihilate this virus. And I think that pretty much sums up. I took a little more than the 2 minutes I promised myself.
Fine.
But I get fired up when I talk about this.
We need the fifth. Thank you so
Shabbat
much.
Shalom, everyone. Thank you for your time.
This man is busy all day long dealing with this at the hospital, has been giving an enormous amount of time to us for all of you. So we're very, very thankful, Dr. Krinsky. And now we have announcements. We have a busy congregation. Sarah Newman, our liaison for membership and leaving for Israel. I think we just have the box. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm just going to reiterate that it was wonderful to have so many new members here today. I want to thank our service leaders, Stan Mitchell, Deborah Bortnick from Musaf, our Torah readers, Louis Amsel, Stan Mitchell, Susan Weintraub, Rabbi Auchler, Don Friedman, and Cantor Neil Newman. Rabbi Auchler, thank you for a beautiful service. And I think I can speak for everybody saying we not only appreciated your words, but your person. And we're very lucky to have you.
I'm blessed to be here. Thank you.
I think everybody can read. Everybody has a messenger in front of them, and there's also messengers with all the dates in the hall. So I'm just going to bring up a few short things that are happening, mostly around Hanukkah. On Friday evening, December 3rd, the service will include singing by the Jewish chorale. And right after that, there's a change in time for the men's club, where they are having their movie on December 5th, I think. It's going to be at 2:30 instead of 4 p.m. So watch the website, check your messenger so you can stay on top of all of those things which are important. There are also very few seats left for the Ozzy Schwartz concert. If you know of anyone who's coming down who maybe is a snowbird and hasn't purchased a ticket yet, there are about 75 seats left in the Opera House. So you will want to purchase your ticket soon. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year. Our Bima baskets this morning, thank you to Esme and Eric Ferber in honor of your 46th wedding anniversary, Mazal Tov, and by Karen, Ellen, Larry, and Richard Agnes in honor of Edward Morris's 94th birthday. Want to wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving, and just to know for our new members and any prospective members, we are here 52 weeks a year on Shabbat, so come and join us. Our classes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays with Rabbi Altschler, all of our events are open to all of you, whether you were a member or not. If you're checking out congregations, just feel free to be here at any time. And I think that there is a gift for new members. Where is Susan Kahn? A gift for new members.
Outside.
Oh, out on the, Susan will be there. There's a little gift for our new members as well. So Shabbat Shalom and happy Thanksgiving to all.
Well done. Thank you, Serenades. Always with such absolute beauty. Let's conclude. We'll conclude our service with Adon Olam, and then stay. We'll have our Kiddush, and then we'll kibitz and shmooze outside. Adon Olam. 2:11.
Adon Olam asher malach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'en nasav echefso kol,
azay melech shemo nikra, v'yacharei,
kichlot
hakol, levado yimloch nora,
v'hu haya,
v'hu hoveh,
v'hu b'tifara, Adon Olam
asher malach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'en nasav echefso kol, azay melech shemo nikra, v'hu echad, v'ein sheni,
להמשיל לו
להחבירה,
בלי ראשית,
בלי ראשית,
בלי תכלית,
בלי תכלית,
ולא העוז והמשרה, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, להתנסה וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, והוא אלי, וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי, ליעד צרה, והוא ניסי, ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי, ביום אקרא, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, להתנסה וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו בידו, אף כדרוכי, בייתי שן ויעירה, ואם רוחי, גוויעתי, אדוני לי, ולא יירא, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, ליעד נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא.
Please rise, v'shamru v'nei Yisrael to Shabbat. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעילם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ויום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, על כן ברכנו ליום אשר בקדשהו. סברי ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. Chaim. Let me get the challah now. Always forget they're in this little bag. Birshutchem baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Lunch is coming. Birshutchem. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Let me turn my little microphone off. Okay, I spoke off the cuff. It's a mess. I just hope nobody gets hurt. Yeah. Jordan, are you kidding? Henry. Huh? Larry Miller? Larry Miller? Oh, Larry Olson, my cousin, first cousin, doctor. He's 70 years old.
I noticed I'm not up.
Diagnosed with pancreatic cancer about 4 months ago. Going. And here's a doctor, and he's a brilliant doctor. He had a big institute in Tulsa, Oklahoma. To show you where none of us are immune from any of this. Yeah, he did he was always into the vitamins and exercise and all these preventive measures, and he got pancreatic cancer.
Remember I told you that when they came from Temple Emmanuel, it was just their members?
Yeah.
Yes. So,
That's ridiculous.
So Ed walked in there, because it's on our schedule.
So good, we want everybody to go.
So he walked in. When it was over, Rabbi Glickman said to him, you know, you weren't supposed to be here.
You're kidding.
No, and I said, so what was going on? He said it was general ask the rabbi questions, you know, religion questions.
So what's wrong with having other people?
But I mean, it's bad enough that the people
weird?
said it, but that the rabbi said to him, you don't belong here.
So
I'm going to see to it that
That's
it's
really
not
ridiculous.
on our schedule at all.
We want anybody wants to come, they should all feel
they love you.
comfortable.
They want
And
you
I can't
back.
wait to come back. So we're going to next week. I want to set a kind of a
Right.
definite plan.
And also, I want to
And
bring
everybody's invited. It's not just for
And I
TBS
want to
members.
bring you over to Anshin.
Yeah, we'll have to do that
meet
next
those
time.
people
Let's do that next time.
I called Jules, and he said, oh my God, I can't wait.
Next
So-
time, we'll do that next
Yeah.
one, yeah. Hannah, thank you so much. Julie,
Oh, Mom.
you're kidding.
Oh. Kidding. At Sarasota Memorial, SMH.
It was
Hello, good job.
my wife
Good job.
bypass.
Yes. Yes. So which house did you decide on?
Don't even ask me. It's like when it will be settled.
Right.
It will be settled.
Right.
hopefully. But we did one offer. I mean, we did few.
Yeah.
But we did one offer last week. And
Of
then we
course.
left out of it.
Of course,
because we found
we'll
a lot.
do
Now we made
special
another
Mishabera.
offer today. We
I
probably
just
will
heard.
hear because there is. It's like constant.
Yeah,
Someone
and-
else
and the
comes
other
and
You
comes
better
in.
get this over with. That's an order. Force them up quick. So how long do they expect you in the hospital then? 4 or 5 days?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then home for about 4-week recuperation. So something building up for a long time?
Long or short version?
Yeah, I don't know. You don't have to go into any medical details.
Well, I've known for 6 months that it was going to be coming, but I didn't think it would be this soon.
All right, so you better go in. Well, the good thing is they do this like cataract surgery. It's one after the other, so they have such great success with heart issues. We are. one is from Bellagio, Italy. You ever been to Bellagio? Beautiful. This is from, they have the most beautiful neckties. You have to go to Bellagio, forget the beauty of the lake, and I mean, it's really gorgeous. Neckties. Maybe one day we'll be there. Excellent.